It was close to midnight, and the rain had been falling for hours, heavy, cold, and strangely rhythmic, as if drumming out a message on the old wooden roof of the cabin where I sat alone. The storm outside wasn't like a normal rainstorm. The drops landed in odd, uneven patterns, almost as if someone invisible was pacing back and forth across the rooftop. I had come to this remote forest cabin to finish writing a collection of horror stories, but what I found that night was something far more real, far more terrifying, and far too close to me. The forest outside was a black silhouette, pressed against the windows by thick fog, and the trees swayed in unnatural ways, forward, backward, but never side to side. I kept hearing faint whispers in the sound of the rain, whispers that didn't match the storm's rhythm. At first, I assumed it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But soon, the whispers grew clearer, forming words, familiar words. My name. Over and over again. I froze. The cabin was miles from the nearest person. No one even knew I was here. Yet the rain kept repeating my name, syllables hitting the roof with intention. I tried to distract myself, flipping through my notebook, but suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the cabin even though all the windows were shut. The fire flickered low, and in the dim light, I saw something standing in the corner of the room. At first, I thought it was my coat hanging on the wall, but the shape moved, slowly, deliberately. A human-like figure, dripping water, even though it wasn't inside a moment ago. I blinked, and the figure disappeared. I told myself I was imagining things. But then the whispers in the rain shifted. They were no longer calling my name. They were laughing. A wet, distorted laugh that echoed through the walls like something playing on an old broken tape recorder. I grabbed my flashlight and walked to the front door. Something inside me wanted to open it, maybe to prove to myself that no one was out there. But before I could touch the handle, 3 slow knocks rattled the door. Not the sharp sound of someone knocking with knuckles. This was softer, wetter, like someone tapping with the palm of a soaked hand. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The knocks came again, this time from the back door. Then the side. Then the window. As if several wet hands were slowly circling the cabin, tapping gently, letting me know I wasn't alone. I stepped back, and my foot landed in something cold. I turned. A trail of wet footprints, bare footprints, led from the corner where I saw the figure earlier. They were fresh. They were dripping. And they were leading toward me. I stumbled back, tripping over a box, and the fire suddenly extinguished as if someone had blown it out. The cabin went pitch black. The only sound was the rain, still whispering, still laughing. I fumbled with the matches, but my hands were shaking so badly none of them lit. Then, something touched the back of my neck. A cold, wet hand. I spun around, flashlight raising instinctively. For a split second, I saw it clearly, a pale face, hollow eyes, hair dripping as if submerged underwater. It smiled, an impossible, wide, broken smile where the skin split at the corners. And then it vanished. The flashlight flickered, catching faint movements around the room. Shadows that didn't belong to anything visible. Footsteps squishing softly against the wooden floor. I backed away until I hit the wall, holding the dying flashlight like a weapon. The rain outside grew louder, almost angry. It wasn't falling naturally now, it was slamming against the windows and roof as if hundreds of hands were hitting the cabin at once. My ears rang from the noise. The walls shook. The whispering turned into screams. Terrified, I covered my ears, but the voices were inside my head now, begging, crying, laughing, warning. The flashlight blinked one last time, and in that brief light, the wet figure was standing inches away from my face. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I could only watch as its mouth stretched open unnaturally wide, and water poured out, dark, murky water that spilled across the floor, rising fast. The cabin began to flood. The water was freezing, thick, and filled with shadows that swirled beneath the surface. I tried to run, but the water rose too quickly. Something grabbed my ankle beneath the surface. Then another hand. Then another. They weren't pulling me down, they were holding me in place, forcing me to face the figure. The drowned spirit leaned closer, its eyes empty, its mouth still overflowing with water. Then, in a distorted, watery voice, it whispered, "I wasn't telling stories. I was warning you." The water surged upward. Everything went dark. When I woke up the next morning, I was lying on dry floorboards. The cabin was silent. Clean. No footprints. No flooding. No figure. Only one thing remained. My notebook was open on the table, and written in my handwriting, words I never wrote, was a new story title, Real Scary Paranormal and Ghost Stories Told in the Rain. And below it, in dripping letters, one final message: I'll come back when it rains again. No matter how familiar a place feels, darkness always hides what you are not prepared to face. Fear does not chase you without a reason, it waits for the moment you stop trusting your instincts. When something feels wrong, it usually is. Survive by listening to the warning signs your mind whispers before the shadows begin to speak.